Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back, everyone, to the best fishing show in all of the 7 seas, the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Navigating you tonight will be myself, Bree Gabrielle, and Captain Rick Murphy. Rick, are you ready to do the show tonight?
I'm always ready, Bree, and I'm so excited. What?
I'm just checking to see if you have any hidden stuffed animals anywhere so you don't smack me in the face again.
No, there will be no shark encounters tonight.
Okay, well that's good. Let's first say hi to Dave Farrell, who will be manning the Jägermeister workbench, with precision, of course.
Just waiting to be navigated.
Just waiting to be navigated.
That's right. Point me in the right direction.
We're going to do that. Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about our species tonight?
Well, let me tell you, Bree, when you look at Sports Fishing Magazine's permit, I gotta say, I love permit. Look at the big nostril. That's one of the things they smell, the crabs, you know, when they're rooting in deep grass. And certainly permit come in a variety of different sizes. The most common size, 25 to 30 pounds as an adult. But if you look at one of my buddies, Tom, this is the guy that runs the Amish bakery down in the Redlands. He fishes with me. Look at the size of this fish that he caught. A fish well over 50 pounds. It was really one of my premier catches as a captain. I really enjoyed that fish, and I'm really excited about tonight.
Me too. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, well, here to tell us where those sweet spots are. First up, we've got Captain Randy Tout from the Keys region.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, permit throughout the Keys starts from the lower Biscayne Bay area in Key Largo, and it'll stretch as far as the Tortugas down off of Key West. Now, there's a lot of ways to go about catching a permit. Some guys will be up on the flats, and they'll look for them. They'll stalk them. Some guys will fish around structure like big coral heads or wrecks. So there's several ways, and you want to fish these fish according to the condition you have. If you have the right conditions for the flats, considering tide and visibility, that's what you do. If it's more in deep water, then you go to deep water. But certainly a silver dollar size live crab on a medium spinning rod is the ideal setup to get one of these permit to bite. Now, if you go in the Gulf, as we get down into the middle Keys and the lower Keys, you have Gulf wrecks out in the Gulf of Mexico that this time of year can hold some real big schools of permit out there. Rick and I both have seen schools of 100 or 200 fish in a school out there, and they're pretty eager to eat your crab if you throw to them, unlike a tailing fish on a shallow flat that you make a great cast to and you spook them. So it's all about how you want to target them and the areas that you're going to fish. I would say the lower Keys in Key West is probably the best places to go and catch a permit on any given day. That area in the Key West area is very lively with coral and hard bottom, and the permit seem to favor that area down there a lot more.
All right, Randy, before we continue on your report, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Navionics navigational chart. All the way down at the very bottom end of your region is an island that sits off in the distance west of Key West called the Marquesas. And I got to tell you, one of the premier places to catch a permit, specifically this time of year, is certainly along the outside, the southeastern side here. And as you guys can tell, you can look right here as you see the drop-off. These permit love to swim down that edge. Now, as the tide floods, you're going to want to look for these permit to move on the inside. So remember, that's one of the great places in the south part of the Florida Keys, all the way down at the very end of Randy's region. All right, Randy, what else do you have inshore for us in your region?
You know, we got to talk about bonefish. It's that time of year. Although we haven't had a lot of bonefish this year, it seems like right now guys are finding more and more every day when they go look for them. Now, this week we had some stormy conditions. We had a lot of rain. We had a lot of overcast. And really that favored some good bone fishing. I talked to young Jared Raskob, and he got into the bonefish almost every evening this week after some of these thunderstorms and the rain. That water cools off. We had a good incoming tide, and he said most of the bayside flats he found plenty of bonefish, and I think one night they caught 5, and they even caught a few on a fly rod. Now, Captain Dave Dankert, he's been doing it as well, but going in the morning. He's been going early morning, catching 3 or 4 bonefish, and he's having some great bone fishing. Now, that's right around Isla Mirada, and down in the lower Keys this time of year, you're going to have some great bone fishing in the Content Keys, the Snipe Keys, the backcountry of the lower Keys, we call it.
All right, good job inshore, Randy. Let's go offshore, bud.
You know, the grouper fishing, I've been talking about that, and it's just been good. This year, it's been good. Most guys are getting out there, taking advantage of it, and you can either do it on the reef while you're yellowtailing, or you can do it on some of the rocky bottoms. Now, a lot of these Navionic chips that you put in your GPS will show the rocky areas, the rocky bottom, out in that 120 to 200 feet of water. A lot of guys will go out in that deep water with a live grunt or a pinfish or a speedo, and they'll drift with your bait just up off the bottom, and they've been catching some really nice black groupers. I've got a photo of Bobby Vaughn from Flying Fisherman with one of the many black groupers. He's been catching them really good. If you look at that picture, that grouper looks like he's been pumping coral.
Yeah, man, he's really serious. All right, what else do you have for us offshore that's serious?
You know, dolphin. It's great to talk about dolphin. Here we are into August, and the dolphin fishing has still been very good. A lot of guys, you know, you got to work at finding a big one, but I'm hearing and I'm seeing big ones caught every day by guys that are ready. You got to be prepared, and you've got to be consistent with the birds. Don't give up on a set of birds, especially in that 800 feet to 1,200 feet of water. You see a set of birds going, you never know. It might be a bunch of schoolies, and while you're catching a few schoolies, a 40-pounder pops up. And if you're ready with that pitch rod, you're going to get a shot at him. And that's what these guys are doing. Not many of these fish are caught just blind trolling. Most of the fish these guys are targeting, and they're getting under the birds, and they're ready to find that big bull swimming. I talked to Captain Brian Cohn on the Contagious out of Robbie's Marina. Brian is probably the top dolphin guy in the Keys. He's won most of the dolphin tournaments this year. He's catching slammer dolphin on a daily basis, and I've got a picture of a 40-pounder he caught with Harry and Tyler Roberts this week. And you know how the weather was with the pouring rain and thunderstorms. They caught it in all that bad weather.
Wow, great report from the Florida Keys. Randy, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the La Jolla hotspots from the Florida Keys. Captain Randy says this weekend you want to go inshore bone fishing, fish early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Throw small quarter-sized crabs and cast 5 feet in front of them up current. And then offshore, dolphins. Start looking in 800 feet of water for the birds and the weeds, and be ready with your pitch rod to cast at swimming fish, Bree.
I'm going dolphin fishing this weekend.
Are you?
I am down in the
Keys. If you
Keys.
catch one, will you bring me a little piece?
Sure, I
dolphin.
will. Okay, now it's time to tell you about some tournaments in the Florida Keys. The 6th annual Spartan Fishing Tournament, planned for August 22nd and 23rd in Isla Mirada, is a family-friendly fishing event with backcountry and offshore divisions. The Isla Mirada Invitational Fall Fly Bonefish Tournament, set for September 10th through the 12th, is the Keys' oldest bonefish fly tournament. It's also among the most prestigious bonefish fly tournaments in the world. Past grand champions include Flip Pallett, Carl Hyacin, and Andy Mill. Teams of up to 4 divers can compete for more than $3,500 in prize money for the most lionfish captured, largest and smallest individual lionfish at the Lionfish Derby, September 12th to the 13th in Key Largo. Lionfish are an invasive species, and it's important to remove them from our waters. The Marathon International Bonefish Tournament, scheduled for September 18th to the 21st, is one of the oldest angling competitions in the Florida Keys. Awards include the tongue-in-cheek Wet Pants title for anglers waiting from shore. That's funny. All right, now let's hear from Andy Newman. Hey, Andy.
And we are talking about the Robert James Sales Slam Celebrity Fishing Tournament. It's set for September 5th through the 7th in Key West. Points are earned for catching and releasing tarpon, permit, and bonefish in fly, artificial, or bait categories. Celebrities set to participate include Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Wade Boggs and former NASA astronaut Bruce Melnick. The Slam is the first in the annual Redbone trilogy of tournaments that raises funds for cystic fibrosis treatment and research. More details at redbone.org, and more information on other tournaments and events in the Florida Keys, FLAKeys.com. Now, guys, before I leave you, I have a photo. It's a beautiful 57-pound dolphin caught off the Keys a few weeks ago by Texas angler Marshall Dodson. He's in the center with Captain Nick Stanzik on the right side there, and of course, they're fishing out of the B&M 2, which is based in Isla Mirada. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks a lot, Andy. That's the kind of fish I'm going to catch down there this
hope you
weekend.
do.
All right, next up, from the best from the Southwest, Captain Ronnie Houston is here to give us the inside scoop on what's biting this weekend.
Well, you know, primarily on the southwest coast of Florida, fishing for the permit, you want to concentrate on structure, whether it be wrecks, rock piles, or at times traveling with migrating tarpon. Now, you know, Randy mentioned there's a couple different ways to fish them over there, flats, edges, and offshore. But don't be surprised, and I'm telling you, not a lot of guys look for these permit while they're pulling these grass flat edges for these tarpon. They're keyed in looking for a tarpon. Don't be surprised. They might not be in numbers, but you might see a tail or a fin tipping. So keep an eye out on grass flat edges. Like I say, might not be abundant, but they will show up. You can also find these fish around markers and main head pins, either below the surface or on calm days, tipping on the top. Generally, this is a run and gun bite, or it be a game of patience, setting up and waiting for the fish to arrive or drifting across the structure, looking for these fish on top or seeing schools on your bottom finder. Now, like Randy said, the #1 bait is live crabs. You can also use live shrimp or even a variety of bright-colored bucktails, tip with shrimp, or even small artificial swim baits when they are in numbers and feeding aggressive. Most fish average anywhere from 15 to 35 pounds on my side. And the best time really to fish for these fish is early spring, even as much as late winter, depending upon the water temperature warming up, and all the way through summer, especially as the heat of the water we're having now until water temps start to cool down. Now also on the offshore side, a little bite to keep you going while you're out there grouper fishing. You want to concentrate on the yellowtails and the vermilion snappers. You want to concentrate anywhere from Gordon Pass to Fort Myers Beach, in the same depth of 75 to 95 feet as you're working for the groupers. Actually, like I said, the red grouper fishing, you're fishing these fish along hard bottom, but the only difference is once you're trying to get some of these grouper to bite, you wouldn't be dropping down chicken rigs with cut squid as you're fishing for these groupers. Now, like I say, a chicken rig with squid in the same areas you're trying to catch a limited snapper, chances are you might catch a 15 to 20 pound grouper all in the same area. Got a prime example about some guys were fishing for snappers and vermilion snappers. Christian Gonzalez, age 11, big fan of the show. He was fishing with Captain Mike Avenant on the Vindictive, and while doing a variety, that's a nice-sized red grouper he caught. Now, before I go into my inshore, we've got a big event coming up for the 4th or 5th year. Take a Soldier Fishing in downtown Naples coming September 13th, where you get 50 to 60 guys taking actor and veterans out. Keep an eye out for that. I'll be repeating it the next couple weeks. On the inshore side, tarpon. Captain Joey Benko tells me early morning, cruising the beaches, especially with our large bait balls cruising the beaches anywhere from Marco to Fort Myers Beach. Especially if the water is clear and you see these bait balls, it'll actually look like a cloud passing in the sky, and you will see these fish. Depending on which way the wind is blowing, drift towards the bait schools and use live crabs, live ladyfish, pinfish, 4 to 6 inch swim baits. Try to be stealthy and have patience. Right now, these fish are averaging anywhere from 60 to 120 pounds. Also on the inshore side, the snook. The nighttime bite from Charlotte Harbor to Cape Coral, fish residential canals along seawalls, docks, and bridges, fishing lights and shadow lines. The more current, the better. Downsizing these baits and steady retrieves is necessary. Bass Assassin Sea Shads in glow, white, and chartreuse on a jig head. Also, glow and root beer shrimp imitations, 3 to 4 inch red and white lip plugs also been working. Stealth and patience is the key. Also, there's juvenile tarpon in some of these areas, but they seem to be in the areas where the current seems to be moving slower. And don't be surprised right now with the abundance of rain we had Monday and Tuesday. Start looking at spillways, culverts, bridge spans where the fresh water is pushing through. Reports I've had in the last couple of days with guys just coming home from work throwing plugs. Variety of snook being caught there too, up to 34 inches.
All right, great report, Ronnie. Thanks for batting second for us tonight. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Outdoor Experience hotspots from the Southwest CCA region. Inshore, trout, pavilion key to hog key, fishing grass flats in 2 to 4 feet of water using soft plastics and topwater plugs. And then offshore, Spanish mackerel and mangrove snapper fish near the shore wrecks from Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass. Now here with me is Dr. Aaron Adams from the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Now Aaron, you were here last year during the Permit Show, and we want to talk a little bit about some of the recaptures, but more importantly, we do want to talk about what you guys are doing with Bonefish too.
Sure. First on Coasters Project Permit, we've tagged about over 1,000 permits so far in Florida. I've had 14 recaptures. The most interesting one was recently a fish that was tagged by Carl Ball down in Biscayne, was caught by Nick Way up in Fort Worth about a year later. So pretty good travel for a fish, about 17 pounds.
You think that fish was going up there to spawn?
That's our guess. It was caught on a wreck offshore, so we think it was up there to spawn from Biscayne Bay.
All right, well, let's take a look at this, some of the great, kingfish, sailfish mounts, but more importantly, tell us about bonefish and what you guys are doing with that.
Well, we're trying to figure out what's going on with bonefish in the Keys. We're doing a lot of work in the Bahamas, for example, because there's a lot of bonefish. Figuring out things like where they spawn. This is a school of about 15,000 bonefish getting ready to spawn in the Bahamas. We know that they go offshore at night on the full and new moons, and they're in thousands of feet of water when they spawn. They go down a couple hundred feet to spawn. So we're using that information now to come back to the Keys and figure out where in the Keys they might be spawning. Places that have a steep drop-off, not too far from shore. We're guessing it's probably in the lower Keys, but we'll find out. And one of the concerns is that when they do spawn, the eggs that hatch, the larvae float around for about 50 days. So those bonefish that are in the Keys could be coming from Keys spawning bonefish. They're coming from a place like Cuba, where we've had reports of a lot of netting of some of the bonefish. So if a place like Cuba or elsewhere are netting their spawning bonefish, we're not going to get juveniles in the future. So one of the other things we're looking for in the Keys is where are the juvenile bonefish? When I say juveniles, I mean 3 inches, 4 inches, maybe 6 inches. And figuring out where they are is really important. But another thing that people don't understand about bonefish is even though they're in a kind of a small area when you go to catch them, they do migrate pretty long distances to spawn. In the Keys, we've tracked them going 140 miles round trip. But it does look like those spawning migrations are all in shallow water until they get to that deep edge.
So then we're using the seine net to go in the real shallows and look for really small bonefish.
Really small. After those larvae come in, they turn into miniature bonefish, and we got to figure out where those juvenile places are to make sure we have a fishery for the future.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and really educate us about what you guys are doing in Bonefish Tarpon Trust. If people want to know more about what you're doing, where do they go?
They go to btt.org, and they can find all kinds of information. They can mail us, they can call us, email us or call us. Let us know where they're seeing small bonefish or bonefish that might be spawning.
Good stuff. All right, Bree, we got to go to a break, so let's go.
Yes, we do. We sure are off to a fantastic start. And when we come back, we're bringing you straight off the deep end and checking in with the East region, only on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. Yeti Coolers. Wildly stronger. Keep ice longer. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 25 years. Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Humminbird, simply, clearly, better. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
Wandering out into this great unknown. And when it's done, believe that I will yell it from that mountain.
Find summer, the Chevy Summer Drive. The Chevy Summer Drive. Get 0% financing for 72 months plus a total value of $4,000 on this 2014 Silverado All-Star Edition and no monthly payments for 90 days. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Yamaha's next generation V6 4-strokes are changing the game.
Mid-range power was awesome.
Fuel, the burn. It's unbelievable.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fuel economy is pretty impressive.
I mean, I couldn't believe the power. It was like it was more like doing a quarter mile on a dragster.
And them things are like, it's a whole other game. So I made the switch.
Experience the difference for yourself during the Yamaha Discover V6 Offshore Demo Tour. See why we call it the Game Changer.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
continuing the revolution. Faster, drier, even better built. Designed around Yamaha's latest technology outboards. Still built by the same craftsmen and anglers who launched the Bay Boat Revolution. Whether chasing world records, or time on the water with the family, or anything in between, there's a new Pathfinder model for you. Pathfinder, #1 for a reason, still.
Now it's time to go over the news and notes from the FWC. On August 11th, there's the Red Snapper Golf Workshop in St. Petersburg. August 16th, check out the Coast Guard Auxiliary, which is about boating safely and is a one-day course in Fort Myers. August 22nd through the 24th is the Adult Huntmaster Training in Marion County. And on September 6th is Saltwater License-Free Fishing Day. For more information, visit myfwc.com. Now it's time to go off the deep end.
You know, Dave, depending on what time of the year, certainly permit go off the deep end. And over here at the Hummingbird off the deep end Jägermeister workbench, we're talking tonight about permit, which I love, as you know.
Well, I know you do, and I tell you what, I don't do a whole lot of permit fishing. The only permits I've ever seen in the wild was in Antigua. I was there doing a wahoo show, and we shot the whole show in a day, and we got to, hey, let's go try to catch some permit on the flats. And the guy says, I said, there's no permit around here. And he showed me a picture, and it must have been, 50-pound permit. I mean, it was the biggest permit I've ever seen. So we went out there and chased them around all day, and I didn't do any good at it. But you're right, there's two different ways to catch them. You can catch them up on the flats when they're real skittish and hard to catch, or you can catch them over the wrecks when they get in those big aggregations and start to get out on the Gulf wrecks. So I'd like to know, what time of year is right for which one. When would you go to do that offshore
Well,
stuff?
in the spring, they primarily, Dave, they come in, in March and April as it starts to warm up. They move into the inshore wrecks and up on the reefs. And that's where they start to stage in big groups to, primarily get into the spawning deal. Now, the same thing happens to them in the Gulf, but usually what happens in the Gulf is a little later. It's more in the month of August, more in the month of September, and that's after what I see them doing, in the wrecks down in the lower Keys. I know certainly on the reefs in Biscayne Bay, it's an April-May thing. They start showing up on the flats during that time. My favorite time of year to fish for them on the flats is August, the heat of the summer.
Now, but when you're out there, are you looking? I mean, do you get on the flat and start looking for them, or do you start in the channels? Because every time I've ever fished for them in the Keys, I've had guys that take me to channel markers and said, "Where do you see them on this channel marker?"
Well, but that, to me, that's not permit fishing in 101 permit fishing. That's not to say there's anything wrong with that. Certainly, a lot of permit have been caught that way. But primarily, you find them in 3 to 4 feet of water, somewhere near an edge of a channel, because they use the channel to retreat to, and then they'll pop up on the edge of a sand hole. A lot of times we'll pull down the edge, and especially on that higher stages of the tide, the last of the income and the first of the fall, and that's my favorite time to fish for them.
So on a fallen tide?
Only on the higher stage. Once it gets too low, then it's harder to find them. At least for me, where I fish for them in Biscayne Bay and the lower Keys.
What are you using for bait?
Well, we'll use a live blue crab, and we'll use this gulp as an example of what we would do. We typically would use a J hook, something like a 3-0 or 4-0 J hook, and typically we will hook this in the corner of the crab just like that. You go through, you'll use a split shot if the current's real heavy. And you'd put the split shot, mash it all the way down to where you've tied this onto the line. And the reason why that is the presentation that you want to give. You want to hit the permit in the face with the crab and let it sink. Don't move it, because that crab's going to retreat to the bottom, and that permit's not going to allow it to get in the grass.
So you want to throw it right at the face of the fish? You don't want to throw
Pretend
it like
he's a Jack Crevalle.
You don't want to be a foot in front of it, or you want to throw it right, because most of the time, like when you're throwing a cobia or something, you want to be a little out in front of it.
You want a reaction bite.
And it's the same with a fly?
With a fly, the same thing. Hit him in the face with the fly. Here you got a great imitation of a crab fly. We're going to throw this, hit him right in the face, but the difference is don't strip it. You want to throw it, and that's where the mistake is. Let the crab fall.
A crab doesn't swim this way when something's after it. He goes straight to the bottom.
That's correct.
And that's why you want to do that.
Is
there any special color that you like to use for crabs?
No, I mean, the Merkin fly is one that Steve Huff developed with Del Brown. It's brown, it's made out of carpet, you know, but the flies have really become a cool thing. I'll tell you a little twist, the difference with the flies I use for permit. See how that guy tied the lead here? I put my lead back here. And the reason why is because when this thing sinks down current, it's gonna sink this way on a Murphy fly versus this wants to sink like that. And a crab never sinks flat when he's running. He always sinks this way. So we put the eyes on the back.
Ah, sweet. Well, there you go.
All right, man, we gotta go.
And that's permit fishing.
That is permit fishing. And I'd like to permit us to give the show
Oh my God.
That was cute, Rick. I thought you were gonna say, speaking of hitting someone in the face, remember that one? Yeah, all right, that was Nick talking. Okay, now from the East region, where the sharks seem to be enjoying your permit fishing more than you are, it's Captain Mike Holliday to tell us what the heck's going on.
Well, you know what? There's some huge permits that are caught in my region, places like the Lake Worth Pier, Blowing Rocks, the power plant outflow, and some of the shallower wrecks hold really big schools of fish. That being said, it's been kind of an odd year for permit fishing, Bray, because most of the fish are getting eaten, and they're getting eaten by bull sharks. There's just so many sharks in the area. And just to give you an idea how bad it's been, by this time of year, I should have tagged anywhere between 30 and 40 fish, and I haven't tagged a single fish yet. You know, I've hooked plenty. They've all been eaten by sharks, or we've broke them off so the sharks didn't eat them. So, you know, I just haven't been even targeting those fish since June. But there are guys fishing them and finding them in on the beach. The guys having the most success, they're on the beach or in water less than 25 feet of water, or also around the inlets where those fish are up slurping crabs on the surface on the outgoing tide. Live blue crabs or past crabs, either free-lined or fished on a 3/8 ounce chartreuse hookup jig head. That's pretty much the way to go in my region. I like to fish 30-pound tackle with a 40-pound fluorocarbon leader because the average fish in my region is like 25 pounds, and I want to get them in quickly before the sharks can get to them. You can also get them at times to eat a jumbo live shrimp, and every now and then, you know, guys that are fishing them from the beach, that are fishing sand fleas from the beach for pompano, will get a big permit or two. The other bite we got going, you know, if you like to eat mangrove snapper, you need to get to any of the inlets in my region. The fish are schooling in big numbers. Pick an inlet, fish the rocks, the trees, the bridge pilings or docks, or any other structure within 1,000 yards or so of the mouth of the inlet, and it'll have mangrove snapper on it right now. Even the Lake Worth and Juneau piers have good concentrations of snapper on them, particularly at night. You can target these fish with live shrimp, but I really like to throw a 3 or 4 inch Spanish sardine or a pilchard or a threadfin, and in a pinch, a sand perch is a pretty good snapper bait. I'll load my live wells with juvenile pilchards and start chumming them, and then watch for the larger fish to come up and start eat, and then start throwing over where the larger fish are. You can also work the slack tides around the jetties, cast right up tight against the rocks with those baits, and do very well. Average mangrove snapper in my region is going to be 8 to 14 inches.
All right, let's go ahead and go offshore, bud.
Well, you know, it's just been a fantastic summer for sailfish in my region. A lot of anglers are getting shots of fish just about every time they're going out. The best fishing seems to be from about the Juneau Pier to the Black Condo off southern St. Lucie County, with fish scattered in anywhere from 220 to 400 feet of water. By far, the best action seems to be right around 300 feet, where there's good, clean water. That's been a big issue. It's dirty water in Stewart out to 220 feet. The guys that are live chumming are the ones that are really seeing a lot of fish. A lot of the sails are big, so you want to use 30-pound tackle, 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, and an 8.0 VMC tournament circle hook. If you're going to slow troll or, you know, drift with live Spanish sardines, threadfins, or pilchards. If you're going to drift and live chum, be sure to have pitch baits ready to throw the fish when they come within casting distance. You can also throw ballyhoo, you know, with a blue and white or a pink skirt, and keep your baits in the water after you hook up, because a lot of the fish are coming up in pairs. And also, even when you're reeling fish in, there's fish on the back of them, and you can pitch a bait out to them. Just to give you an idea, we went 8 for 9 on sales on Wednesday this week, so a lot of sales out there right now. I got a photo that's Becky Venzina and Hope Beverly. They're showing off the fish. Becky, who's on the left, caught while they were fishing with Captain Charlie Stuve out of Jupiter. They released sailfish, 3 sailfish that day on live sardines. So a lot of them are coming up in groups. Now, the other thing going on, the last few years on the new and full moons of July, August, and September, there's been great wahoo bites, particularly off Palm Beach County, but all the way throughout the region. And for the guys that get on the water, you know, in the morning, in the dark, trawl high-speed lures in 200 to 400 feet of water and are off the water by about 8:30 in the morning. August full moon is this Sunday. That means from today through next Wednesday, there should be a pretty good wahoo bite going on. Most of the boaters on this bite are pulling Yozuri bonitas or wahoo whackers or wahoo bombs on 50-pound gear, but you can also troll, a double hook ballyhoo or swimming mullet with a red and black islander lure on front of it, or slow troll small bonitas or big blue runners on number 8 wire with a stinger hook. Look for the color changes of rips. Anything floating, work those areas well. And also watch for concentrations of bonita and small tuna in the area, because that's what those guys are feeding on. Average wahoo in my region's 20 to 40 pounds with a lot of larger fish in the mix right now.
All right, what else you got for me, Mike? It's time for us to go bass fishing yet?
It is, and you know what? If there's one species of fish in freshwater that loves the heat, it's the butterfly peacock bass that can be found in the lakes and canals of South Florida. And I've just been hearing great reports of peacock bass action from the C2 canal, the C100 canal, the C11 and C14 canals, and even Lakes Ida and Lake Osborne in Palm Beach County, where the guys that are fishing shiners are averaging 30 fish a day right now. The fish are holding around the culverts, the bridges, and the docks, basically anywhere there's shade or moving water. And with the full moon this weekend, expect to still see a few fish that are up shallow on the spawning beds, and that's when they get super aggressive. Unlike largemouth bass, peacock bass only eat fish, so you want to throw lures like a shad wrap or a small chug bug, pins minnow, a rattling vibe, a tiny torpedo, just small bait fish type imitations. And if you're looking for big numbers, a 3 or 4 inch live shiner is pretty hard to beat. There's also a great topwater bite at dawn. And then, once it gets warm, about 8 o'clock in the morning, it's time to go to lipless crankbaits and shiners. Average peacock's going to be 1 to 4 pounds. South Florida's on fire for peacocks right now.
All right, great report from the Bennett East region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the East region hotspot, brought to you by waterwaycafe.com. Captain Mike says inshore spotted sea trout from Middle Cove to JC Park. Topwater plugs, Mississippi hippie saltwater shads, or Houdini colored dye dappers. And then offshore, mangrove snapper in 65 feet of water southeast of Fort Pierce. And the best at night using sardines or cigar minnows.
Wow, if this was a scratch and sniff show, you'd be smelling Rick's fingers right now because they smell horrible. That's why I'm sitting so far away from you. Okay, next. Stop moving your hands. Next up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we have our reports from the Central West and Southeast region, so don't drift off. I'm going to drift off from you. Bye.
Bye.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. Guy Harvey Clothing by AFTCO. Croquis, made in the USA. Drummond Community Bank. Costa, see what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
What is CCA? CCA has been representing recreational fishermen for over 25 years, and when your rights to fish are threatened, the CCA is there to make sure government regulators are making sound decisions. I'm a life member of CCA, and when fishery decisions are being made, the CCA in the room is fighting for our recreational rights. We need to give our kids the same opportunities to fish as we did. Do what I did. Go to ccaflorida.org and join for only $25 so you can protect your recreational angling rights.
Hi, I'm Harold Bennett. My dad started Bennett Auto Supply over 57 years ago. Things have changed since then. We've grown to 33 stores and opened a 93,000 square foot distribution center. But one thing has stayed the same, our focus on the customer. That's why we have the most knowledgeable parts specialists in the business, and we only offer quality auto parts at the guaranteed lowest prices. The next time you need anything for your vehicle, think Bennett Auto Supply. Best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply.
Wandering out into this great unknown, and when it's done, believe that I will yell it from that mountain.
Find summer, the Chevy Summer Drive. The Chevy Summer Drive. Get 0% financing for 72 months plus a total value of $4,000 on this 2014 Silverado All-Star Edition and no monthly payments for 90 days. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Welcome back, guys. This summer, we're helping you cool down. Sportsman's Adventures has joined forces with Yeti for this great giveaway. Enter for a chance to win a Yeti Tundra 45-quart cooler, a 20-ounce Yeti Rambler, and a Sportsman Adventures prize pack. Starting now, fans can enter daily at ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com or at SportsmanAdventures.com. Sounds great, right?
Cool, man.
You know what else we have tonight?
What?
We are announcing our winner for the fishing trip in Casa Vieja, Guatemala. Are you excited? I'm not, because I'm not going. Just kidding. Okay, the winner is Kent Spires from Miami. Congratulations. You will be going to Guatemala. When is that?
We go October 2nd through the 6th.
That's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun.
All right, coming to us from the Central West region is Captain Jeff Page, who has a few tips for us when it comes to catch and permit.
Yeah, I do, but I think that contest was rigged. How come a Miami person won it, not a Central West person?
Aww.
Well, you know, that's what happens.
Anyway, in our Starbright Central West region, you guys, the best permit fishing occurs usually from April till right on through September, and we catch the majority of our permits over wrecks and reefs, sometimes in as close as 3 miles, on out to 30 miles. As you know, slick, calm mornings, you can find them floating on top over the structure, be it a wreck, be it a reef, be it an artificial reef, and nothing beats a live free-line crab. Bait of choice pretty much throughout the state, but definitely in our region. Later in the day, you can have a flat line out with a crab or a select shrimp on it on a 3/0 light wire hook or a 1/4 ounce hookup jig head while you're anchored up bottom fishing. A lot of times those permits will come up off that wreck or reef while you're reeling in a grouper or a snapper. The one thing you got to watch out for with those permits is that big Goliath grouper. He likes to eat those like lures, so pay attention to those. And you know what? Sometimes it's good to cut loose off your anchor and get that permit away from that wreck or reef. Another style we have of catching them is guys will fish on the back sides of bars like Egmont and Passage Key. They try and stay off the troughs and sight fish, and the key to that is calm mornings, but sunshine also. 9, 10 o'clock, good high sun, and pay attention. You can throw a crab pattern fly or a free-line crab ahead of the fish. I have a photo tonight of Chris Rond with a permit he caught in 55 feet of water off Sarasota with Captain Tim No of the Flying Fish Fleet.
All right, what else you got
5 times.
What else you got offshore, Jeffrey?
Red grouper, Captain Jason Sherrill, the Bad Habit, says the red grouper bite has remained consistent even with the hot water temperatures we're having. Plenty of nice keeper reds coming in, mostly off the hard bottom and ledges in 110 to 140 feet of water. Live pinfish and grunts have been the bait of choice, but frozen sardines will work in a pinch if you can't come up with a pinfish and grunts, but they've been pretty easy to sabiki up on your way out. Rolling inshore, Species 1, snook. Awesome catch and release snook bite going on throughout the entire region. Couple different ways to catch them. Early morning topwater plug fishing's been good, especially down in the south part of the region around the mouth of Catfish and Whiddens Creek, and to the north around the oyster bars in Terracea Bay. Key has been getting out early, having not a lot of wind, which we've been pretty calm lately, and throw that bone chartreuse skitter walk in and around the mullet schools and also the small fry bait schools, and you're going to have good success on catching snook. The key is, Rick, staying away from those big floating mats of grass. The pass and inlet game has been good as well, and along the beaches, especially down south around the Venice Jetty area, down towards Minnesota Rocks, and then also up off the Casey Key Beach area around the rocks. And any down trees like around that Longboat Pass area. Live pilchards or free-line pinfish have worked real well. And finally, the night snook bite's been good, with lots of quality 26-inch fish plus being taken on fly, as well as free-line live shrimp. I have a photo tonight of David and Chase Emery of Marine Supply of Winter Haven with a nice snook they got with me a couple weeks ago.
Looking good, Yeti and Costa Hat, love it.
All right, Species 2, redfish, one of our favorites. With the August full moon occurring Sunday, look for the schools of big bull reds as well as slot size fish to be in full swing. To the south, there are schools holding up in the Bull and Turtle Bay bars, as well as that west side of Lemon Bay just north of Stump Pass. Early morning, you're going to see the fish pushing water across the flats. They can be in as shallow as 2 feet on out to 5 feet. Throw that saltwater assassin elite shiner in that ripper pattern, rigged on a 1/4 ounce hookup, silver or chartreuse jig head. Or, for you live bait guys, throw a cork, pinfish, or pilchard, maybe a foot, 2 foot of line between your cork and your hook. To the north, look for good redfish action around the long bar as well as the bulkhead area. And I've got a photo of the same crew, including grandfather Richard and David and Chase Emery, with a redfish they got today with me also.
Great report from the StarTron Central West region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Tires Plus hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Jeffrey says inshore redfish schools all over, bull-size reds all over Fort DeSoto Flats. Live pinfish under a cork is the best bet. And then offshore permit, quality size permit holding on the wrecks and artificial reefs in 40 to 70 foot range. Free line crabs is also going to be your best bet.
That's what you smell like right now. And now all the way from the southeast region is Captain Jimbo Thomas, who has a few things to tell us about the permit bite and what'll be out there this weekend.
That's right. Well, you know, when we talk about permit, we're usually referring to the permit found on the flats, but we do find them offshore as well. In the spring, around the full moons of March and April, these permit will school up to spawn on the offshore wrecks in 50 to 100 feet of water, and you can spot them. They're flashing or mooning on the surface a lot of times. And then they're also commonly caught off the beaches and in the inlets throughout the region, and they eat live crabs that are usually intended for tarpon, so they're not really targeted at that point. After the permit come off the wrecks, fishing for them in the channels and along the channel edges is very productive, especially when the wind blows the sargassum weed inshore. And these permit will follow that sargassum weed and feed on the small crabs and shrimp that are hiding in the grass there. And when they're in this feeding pattern, they get real non-spooky. They drop their weary instincts, makes them a lot easier to be caught. Look for them and then listen for pops or slurps on the surface as they're eating these crabs and shrimp out of the seaweed. Then as the wind drops and it doesn't blow so much sargassum weed into the bay, that is when it's best to look for them tailing, mudding, or just cruising on the flats. Look for the flats with hard, corally type bottom that holds sea urchins, crabs, and other crustaceans that they like to eat. And at times they can also be found around structure like coral heads, pilings, and also wrecks in the bay. Our good friend Captain Joe Gonzalez, he tells me that lately the permit fishing has been pretty steady on both the incoming and outgoing tides from Stillsville south of Caesars Creek. Good area has been around the Ragged Keys with fish in the 12 to 17 pound range. And you want to look for the flats with good current flow in anywhere from 3 to 6 feet of water. Now, regardless of where you're fishing for permit, a small live crab is by far the best bait, but there's also plenty of them caught on live shrimp and crab pattern flies. Now, I got a picture here. This is Lee Shirley from Lakeland, Florida, and this is one of several permit he caught on a recent trip with Captain Joe Gonzalez 2 days ago. So they are out there. Now, staying inshore, we're going to stay on the flats in South Biscayne Bay, where there's also been plenty of bonefish mixed in with those permit. The bone fishing has been best first thing in the morning before the water gets too warm, or just after one of our daily afternoon rain showers when it cools down the water. And with the outgoing tide, it's the most productive tide. And then on the outside flats, especially around Sands Key, that's been one of the better areas lately with good numbers of fish, but they haven't been very big, which is typical for this time of the year, according to Captain Joe Gonzalez. And the best baits have been small crabs, shrimp, skimmer jigs, and crab or shrimp pattern flies. Now, moving offshore, this has been one of the better or the most consistent summers that we've had in a while for going offshore looking for dolphin. We're still finding decent numbers of schoolies, 8 to 15 miles offshore, around weed lines, floaters, and under birds. And the average size of the fish has gotten better with schools of 5 to 8 pounders or bigger not being uncommon. But then we've also found schools of small ones too, but the bigger ones seem to be more abundant. One of the best baits right now has been small blue runners, and they've been solid around any of these grass patches offshore that you find floating. You can easily load up the live well by dropping a sabiki down, so there's not much of a chance of running out of live bait once you're out there. Otherwise, rig trolled ballyhoo, feathers, and small lures have been working. In most days, it seems like the morning bite has been the best. Now, a little closer inshore, there's been a good run of sailfish. Here we are in August, and the sails are biting as if it were March or April, but it really is not that uncommon to be catching them this time of the year. One of the reasons it's been good is because most of the days, the conditions along the edge of the Gulf Stream have been good with good north current and blue water. Although earlier this week, we had some south current, and they still bit. Not as good as though when we had the north current. Now, these sails are being caught anywhere from 100 to 300 feet of water on live herrings, pilchards, sardines, and goggle eyes. And on most days, there hasn't been enough wind to fly the kite, so we've been slow trolling or drifting our live baits. There's also been a number of sail bites coming off of free jumpers. They've been very easy to spot with these calm seas we've had. Now, if you see a free jumping sail, try to determine the depth, get in front of the fish on the south side, get a few baits out, and more often than not, this will usually end up with a hookup. Now, I got a photo here. This is Bryson Hilato from Orlando. He caught his first sailfish on the Thomas Flyer on Tuesday of this week, and this awesome photo was taken by his dad, Al.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jimbo, for the photos. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southeast region. Captain Jimbo says, get out early, cast live crabs for tailing bonefish and permit on the flats of South Biscayne Bay. Fish live herring in 120 to 180 feet of water for sailfish, along the occasional kingfish, and Bonita's going to come along.
Okay, Rick. Well, my favorite part of the show is coming up next, so if you don't want to miss out on what new products Dave has for us or the report from the Central East region, stick around. Look at Merman.
Look at Dave taking a little nap.
Get us
The
to work,
Chevy
Dave.
Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Hookup Lures, premium lures for serious anglers. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Guy Harvey, artist, explorer, marine scientist, conservationist, diver, and fisherman. La Jolla Resort, a place for family and fishermen. Maverick Boat Company, makers of premium boat brands, Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Navionics, we start where the road ends.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline 4-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
You know there's more to it than luck. There's fishing the right bait, the water temperature, the wind, the season, and then there's the boat. We'll put it simply, the boat matters. To own a Contender is to own the best sport fishing boat on the market, period. Contender offers the most comprehensive model range with bigger, faster, and more fuel-efficient boats than the competition. There's only one choice for serious anglers. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation.
Oh, there he is. Hey, you! Yeah. Fat boy, you can't get none of this. Look at me. I got moves. I go left, I go right, I go left again. Watch it. Oh, there it is. Psych! I'm so erratic, I don't even know where I'm going. Come on, Chubby Cheeks. Come on, Bucket Mouth. Come get some of this. I can do this all day long. Look at me. Watch this. Come on. Your mama's so fat that she can't get out the fish net. Ow! All right, I'll give you that one.
Stuff goes on over here at the Jägermeister workbench, and new products certainly happens every week, Dave, so let's get to it.
I missed that little animation. It's a back one. Okay, we're not happy.
Oh, that's the deep end.
Yeah, I know. All right, anyway, this is the Pelican 2745. You know, we get to go, we get up real early in the mornings a lot, and have to mess with the boat and going fishing at night for snook or whatnot. It's always good to have a little light on your head so your hands are free. Well, Pelican makes some of the best stuff ever, and their lights pretty much are just as good as all their cases and stuff that I use for my cameras. That's got 3 LEDs in it. It's got a high, a low, and a little flashing light, in case you get in trouble. It's got 33 lumens. It will run for 20 hours on the high. With
That's
the
That's like Bree.
Yeah, 20 hours on the high, 40 hours on the low, on the 17 lumens. and it'll shoot a beam out 35 meters, which is over about 100 feet.
Yeah.
So, and it's water resistant. It comes with 2 straps. Comes with a nice cloth strap.
Yep.
For to wear on your head, and it comes with a rubber one in case you have a helmet. If you're one of those guys who has to wear a helmet at night.
Here I go.
And also it tilts down 45 degrees. So,
cool.
It goes down.
That's cool.
It's not good for wearing the hat there.
Careful. You're hurting my head here.
I got you. Well, the next product we have are some VMC hooks. I got 2 different kinds. These are the inline hooks. And this was a big deal at the ICAST show. There's several of the companies are making these new inline hooks. And you can see they're different because they have this big eye on them, and it's reversed. It's on the back side of the shank, and it's in line with the shank instead of perpendicular like they normally are. And they do that because they make these inline hooks to put on your lures to replace the treble hooks. Because treble hooks are be a pain in the butt. They get hung up on people and everybody else. But not only that, these have a better hookup ratio. A lot of times, when you have those big treble hooks, you have a hard time getting the hook in them. These things have a better hookup ratio, and they stay in line. That big eye on there keeps them swimming in a straight line for the lures. Now, this is a swinging rugby jig, and this is by VMC too. What's really cool about this thing, it's got an articulated head on it, and that's where you tie into. There's a little tiny eye in there that's recessed in that helps prevent snags. But that whole thing jiggles around on there so that the bait just moves like crazy, no matter if you have a loop on there or not. It's also got a pretty long little head shank on here, so when you put your lures on there, you got plenty of room for your head of your soft bait.
I like this.
Isn't that awesome? And they're nickel. It's also got like a 3-degree offset on that jig, so it's not a whole, not a big offset, just a barely little offset.
Imagine really good for your bass assassin 5-inch jerk
exactly.
baits. Get a lot more play out of it.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right, I think we got enough time for one more thing. We got this is a Seagar pink label 100% fluorocarbon leader material, and it's really soft. I mean that's 50 pounds, so it's kind of a little bit stiffer than you'd think. But it's 30% better knot strength with that stuff because it is a lot more supple than most of it is, and a little bit of the money that they give a little bit of the money to the Breast Cancer Association when you buy that Seagar pink label. It's pink. A lot of the guys like pink leaders now. They think it disappears. If it's fluorocarbon, it's disappearing anyway. But that comes in 25-yard spools from 15 to 100-pound test. Seagar makes great line, and that's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
All right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Yamaha Sales Summer Event. July 15th through September 5th, guys. And what we're talking about is a 5-year unconditional warranty on any of the Yamaha 4-stroke motors or $750 in credit through your dealer. If you want more information about that, go to YamahaOutboards.com and you can see all the details on that sales summer event.
Go get your money.
That's it.
Good job, guys. Okay, now let's give a warm welcome to Captain Jim Ross from the Central East region with all the know-how on getting your weekend bite.
Hey, thanks, Bree. You know what? The permit is a fantastic fish, but they're just not very abundant in my region. But we do get them in the spring and in the summer months. Now, our springtime fish are generally landed by guys that are targeting pompano in the surf, and they're using fiddler crabs or sand fleas or peeled shrimp or pompano jigs, that kind of thing. And the smaller fish will mix in with those pompano just outside the surf break. Now, in the summer months, we find more of the adult-sized fish on the wrecks outside of Sebastian and Port Canaveral at times. And in the late summer and fall, we even get them at Sebastian Inlet where they feed on small crabs and little bait fish as they're flowing out with the tide. Now, the inlet fish are generally more aggressive than the permit on the wrecks and the ones in the surf. They have a tendency to, feed, but they can't, they're not as spooky. So they want to feed on that outgoing tide and hit those crabs that are flowing out on that tide. So what you guys and gals have to remember is that is the key to catching permit is you have to have a crab swimming by their nose, and if they see it, they're generally going to act like a Jack Crevalle rather than a permit, and they're going to whack that thing. Now, out on the wrecks, the fish aren't quite as aggressive like I was saying, but you can get them to do the same thing. You want to cast up current and let it drift down current, and these fish will eat. Now, our beach fish that we get in the spring, and again in the fall actually, are generally 2 to 8 pounds. And the inlet fish and the wreck fish are normally a little bit bigger. They're 10 to 25 pounds, but we do have fish occasionally to 40 pounds. Now, I have a picture here that Eric Hernandez was actually sent to me by Jeff Page. that Eric Hernandez came over from the Central West region to the Central East region and did exactly that. He dipped some crabs at Sebastian Inlet on the outgoing tide, floated them out a long way, and got this beautiful permit to show for it right there off of the North Jetty. Now, our other inshore species is redfish this week, and it's been pretty good again this week, but the guys are hitting the water early. And, get off the water by about 10 a.m. Soft plastic jerk baits like the Saltwater Assassin 5-inch shad in the watermelon red flake color or the native shrimp color is really two good color patterns this week, especially if you're fishing in the Indian River or the Mosquito Lagoon. Now, another thing that you guys and gals can throw for redfish is a hookup jig, and use them in brown or black. And when you're sight casting the fish that are waiting to ambush prey, that are laying in the sandy potholes or along edges, I like to use the 1/8 or the 1/4 ounce models. Now, one of the things that you really need to do with this jig, it's got good action, but redfish this time of the year can be a little fussy. You need to spray it with some Bang shrimp scent or some Bang crab scent, because they're feeding on crustaceans that look like this little bucktail, and they're waiting for those things to hop into the sand holes. So it gives them that extra incentive to bite. Other things that work really well are weedless gold spoons, skitterwalk plugs, especially first thing in the morning, or cut baits if you're fishing later in the day whenever the redfish, have a tendency to be a little more lethargic and not want to chase some of those artificial lures. Our average redfish is running about 2 to 6 pounds right now. Now, offshore, we've got tarpon. Now, let me tell you something. The tarpon bite really changed after this storm just went by this week, but it was still pretty good up at the Ponce Inlet area over the last couple of days. Now, the pogies and the glass minnows are cruising up and down the beaches, and, of course, that's what the tarpon are eating on right now. But from the tip of the Cape to the False Cape was really, really good at the beginning of the week, but it started to slow down right now. Like I said, those fish have moved, and they've gone north towards Ponce. The average fish is running about 50 to 80 pounds, but there are fish over 100 pounds that can be caught just about every single day if you use some of those live pogies for them. Now, my last species this week, the anglers that are working the reefs and wrecks are catching in the 60 to 120 pound depth, 120 foot depths, are catching mangrove snapper, or as some people know them, gray snapper. Now, the most effective way to get your 5-fish limit right now is to chum them up to the top of the water and then get them away from that structure that they can cut you off on. Also, that gets them away from those Goliath grouper that have a tendency to eat them whenever you hook them. Anglers need to use about a 25-pound test fluorocarbon leader. You want to use a short shank live bait VMC hook, either in a 1/0 or 2/0 size. And with this weekend's upcoming full moon, you can expect it to be a really, really good time to catch the snapper, especially for those guys that are going out there and doing a little night patrol duty. Now, our average mangrove right now is running 2 to 5 pounds, but we have fish to 12 pounds on a regular basis on these wrecks, especially to the north part of my region from Canaveral through Ponce. Now, I've got a photo right now with Megan Fogg. She caught this 29-pound red snapper back whenever the season was open. Now, that thing right there is a giant fish. And so Megan really had her hands full whenever she grabbed a hold of that thing, or it grabbed a hold of her, wherever you want to look at it. But anyway, congratulations to Megan on a 29-pound genuine red.
All right, good job, Jim. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hookup lure hotspots from the Central East region. Captain Jim says inshore, Sebastian Inlet jetties for snook and redfish. Use live croakers on a standard bottom rig. And then offshore, permit on the larger wrecks in 60 to 80-foot depths. Use live crabs on a 5/0 circle hook.
Man, I would have loved to have been on that boat when she caught that thing.
Yeah, man.
Dang. Girl power. All right, when we come back, we'll check in with the Northeast and Panhandle regions, only on the Chevy Florida
Insider Fishing Report.
Good job.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Alukai, fit by nature, crafted by hand. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. Startron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
summer. The Chevy Summer Drive. The Chevy Summer Drive. Get 0% financing for 72 months plus a total value of $4,000 on this 2014 Silverado All-Star Edition and no monthly payments for 90 days. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Continuing the revolution. Faster, drier, even better built. Designed around Yamaha's latest technology outboards. Still built by the same craftsmen and anglers who launched the Bay Boat Revolution. Whether chasing world records, or time on the water with the family, or anything in between, there's a new Pathfinder model for you. Pathfinder, #1 for a reason, still.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now. You know, Bree, I had a chance to meet with Ed Bailey and talk about towing vehicles. I want you to check this out and see what he had to say.
Okay, let's do that.
You know, we're here at the boat ramp, and Edward Bailey from Chevy is here to tell me why this 215 and towing makes a lot of sense.
Well, the 2015 Suburban has a lot of great features. You know, first off, you're going to have your StabiliTrak. So inside the vehicle, you know, you're going to be able to use the capabilities of the truck going down the road. If you have a slippery ramp, you know, you can adjust for things like that. Very important. You don't want to lose your boat or anything like that. You know, we talk a lot about towing, the capacities of the Chevy trucks. As you go down the road, whether it be a 39 contender and you need to pull it with a 1-ton dually, you know, it's a great truck. You can pull up to 24,000 pounds. So the capabilities of the Chevy truck are there. But some of the great features a lot of your fishermen like are the backup camera, and the great features that when you back up, you know, you can do it by yourself. Yeah. You can literally back it up, put that ball right underneath where you need to hitch it down. So you know, it makes for a great experience when you're on the water and you need to pull a boat, whether it be a big boat, small boat, whatever you need to trailer.
You know, Ed, the sensors in the mirrors now are a huge part of trailer in the boat, that we always have a blind spot, because when we adjust our mirrors, Ed, we always adjust the mirrors so that we can see our axles and make sure we're not having a wheel problem. You guys now have put these sensors in the back quarter panels of the Suburban, and it allows me to know then there's a guy in my blind spot because of the way I've adjusted my mirrors. That is a huge thing for us this year.
Being a heavy tower myself and pulling those longer trailers, that blind spot is a very important piece, because you get a trailer that's out there, you know, 15, 20, 25 feet long. That's very, very important. So it's covering you at that 45-degree angle if you need to make that turn to the lane to the left or right. So you're right, those side mirrors cover that blind spot wonderfully.
Guys, you need a new vehicle or any new truck for towing purposes, make sure you go to a Chevy dealer and get some great information about what's out there.
Great job, Rick. All right, there's a chance you'll catch a permit in the Northwest region, but Captain Russell Theron is ready to tell you what is a shore catch.
Hey, Bree. Hey, Rick. Well,
Hey,
there's
Russ.
been a few permit caught up here in the St. Mary, you know, on the St. Mary's and Mayport jetties, and a few more have been caught offshore on artificial reefs and wrecks. And one nice one was caught last year in the surf here on Little Talbot Island. The permit are very rare up here in my region, are not targeted species. But staying offshore, I want to talk about the kingfish. Now, we're not having as good a year as we did last year, but this is the best time of year to catch kingfish, especially on the artificial reefs and wrecks in 100 to 120 foot of water offshore. Some of the best live baits to slow troll are ribbon fish, blue runners, and pogies. Now, if you have a hard time finding pogies, then you want to use a sabiki rig tipped with a squid to catch the largest Spanish sardines and other live baits that you can troll with. Typical size kingfish in our region are going to be running anywhere from 12 to 20 pounds. Now, also, moving inshore, we want to talk about the summer flounder. Now, the flounder bite has been really good. Now, we are catching flounder throughout our area in our backwaters. Now, locate the flounder bite in 4 to 12 foot of water, and, you know, in areas that the flounder are going to be ambushing the bait. Now, using light tackle to cast mud menace, a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce hookup jig head, Work it really slowly by hopping it along the bottom, and this will help you get the flounder bite. The best bite is coming from early in the morning and in the late afternoons. Typical flounder are running 1 to 4 pounds. Now, I've got a photo, and here's Rusty Brown with a doormat flounder he caught under the Volano Beach Causeway in 30 foot of water, fishing from his kayak. Now, Rusty also caught an 8-pounder just a week before. Great job, Rusty. Now, also, we want to talk about fishing for the sea trout. During the daytime, our sea trout bite just almost doesn't exist, but we're having a really good night bite. And if you're familiar with your water at night, then hit the dock lights and fish for the sea trout. Be sure your running lights and your anchor lights are working good before you leave the boat ramp. Now, we've got a big tide coming up this weekend, Saturday night. Now, the best fishing for the sea trout in our area is going to be in the St. Augustine area along the ICW and in Salt Run. These areas have good water clarity, and they have lots of dock lights. The best bite comes when the water is clear, and that's going to be on the last of the flood tide and the first of the ebb tide. Now, using live shrimp under our float rig, forgive me, excuse me, or you want to fish my new favorite jerkbait, the new Saltwater Assassin Bad to the Bone jerkbait. Now, this new jerkbait has a perfect natural colors for fishing in our inshore waters. Typical trout are going to run anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds.
All right, good report, Russell. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the CCA Northeast region. Inshore, fish flounder near the rocks and docks in 4 to 12 feet of water, slowly hopping a mud minnow along the bottom. And then offshore, catch kingfish over the artificial reefs and wrecks. 60 to 120 feet of water, use live baits and slow troll.
All right, Rick, well, we've mentioned it before, but get excited, guys, because CCA wants to give you a boat. Being raffled is a Contender 28 tournament series with an Ameritrail trailer, a Pathfinder with an Ameritrail trailer, and a Hells Bay with a custom trailer. Remember, if you win and don't want the boat, you can opt for a cash prize. Perfect, right?
That's right.
And all you have to do is go to ccaboatraffle.org and enter to win.
And don't forget, they have Yamaha outboards on the back of all three of those
course,
boats.
Yamaha outboards.
That's
everything. What else would you have? Okay, well, if you are in the Panhandle region and there's no permit to be found, Captain Pat Deneen is going to tell you what is biting up there. Hey, Pat.
Yeah, Bree, we don't have permit, but I tell you what, we do have tarpon, and there's been a lot of the migrating fish have actually moved on, but we're still seeing plenty of tarpon around the beaches and in some of the bays. I spoke with Captain Larry Pintel, and he's reporting good numbers over in Apalachicola, inside West Pass, and also along the beaches of St. Vincent Island, and then also out on the Cape. The water over there is unusually clear. Usually it's got that river, that Apalachicola River mud color to it, but this year it's kind of a clear greenish water, so you may want to lighten up on your leaders a little bit, maybe 80-pound fluorocarbon. The fly anglers are doing really well by staking out and sight fishing along the Cape. Over here closer to home, Okaloosa Island Pier has had an outstanding tarpon bite for the past week. They're catching them first thing in the morning and then late in the afternoon until sunset. And the fish are feeding on the bait schools hanging around the pier. And multiple hookups are occurring using live baits and also soft plastic storm swim baits. And then inside Choctawhatchee Bay, numerous tarpon are being seen and some hooked up around the Mid-Bay Bridge by either Freeline and Pilchards or Menhaden. The average beachside tarpons are running 80 to 100 pounds. The fish in the bay are running from about 15 to 80 pounds. So there's no permit up here, but the tarpon are here. So that's one of the three big flat skies.
All right. What else you got for us, bud?
Rick, staying inshore, there's been some big Spanish mackerel packs cruising the beaches, and they're also getting up into the bay systems. Along the beach, you're going to find them in the trough. You can slowly cruise along and troll or sight cast to these little packs of fish with jigs or baits, or you can just anchor up and set up and wait for them. Inside the bays, work the channels and the grass flat edges along the shorelines near the passes. Over in Pensacola, the shoreline between Fort Pickens and the Coast Guard Station has been good. In Destin, look for them on the north side of Crab Island. And then over in Panama City, fish the humps. In the bay, chum with live pilchards and then bait fish them. Or if you're Wes Rozier over in Pensacola, he loves to throw that chug bug for these big Spanish mackerels. Sizes are running 3 to 5 pounds, and it's been a pretty good bite. Right. Offshore, the amberjacks, they've opened up on the first, and there's been plenty of fish being caught on the wrecks and the natural bottom. The key is having the right bait, particularly a frisky, hard-swimming blue runner, threadfin, or if you can keep it alive, a small bonita, or really anything that's got a lot of life and action to it. Fish your baits on a slip sinker rig, hook through the nose with a circle hook, and use a long 10 to 15-foot leader so that bait has plenty of room to run around. Focus on those high-relief natural areas, the tugboats, the barges, or other large metal wrecks in 150-plus feet of water. The shallower wrecks have plenty of jacks on them, but most are short, but there are some keeper jacks to be caught on those near-shore wrecks, but most of them are going to be small. The legal size is 30-inch fork length, and the fishes vary from 10 to 40 pounds, although the first day of the season, the party boats swoop at our desks, and they weighed a 90-plus pounder, so there are some big bruisers swimming around out there. And finally, the king mackerel bite has been particularly steady throughout the region. A lot of 8 to 12 pounders being caught, but there's some bigger fish also. Captain Matt on the Poco Moss out of Destin, he was fishing in a Carabel mackerel tournament this weekend. They were catching plenty of 20 to 25 pounders off of West Pass in Apalachicola. In Destin, Captain Greg Reniерson, he weighed a 46 pounder on Tuesday, so there's some good fish hanging around as well as a lot of snakes. The buoy line in Panama City or Pensacola has been producing plenty of fish throughout the region. Natural bottom, fads holding bait, and nearshore barges and concrete piles, 65 to 80 feet of water are producing bites. I like to use a 5,000 to 6,000 series spinning rod with 15 to 20 pound test and hook your cigar minnows or your herrings through the nose on a stinger rig and then bump troll them or drift them around those areas. Then there's a photo there, sailfish caught on the alley out of Destin by angler Richard Hill. There's been quite a few of these guys caught while anglers are out there targeting the sailfish or the king mackerels or the jacks. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden your king mackerel's out there jumping with a sail on his back.
All right, great report, Pat, from the Panhandle region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region inshore. Redfish in St. Andrews Pass on the falling tide using live croakers, pilchards, or pinfish. And then offshore, king mackerel still extremely dependable on the natural bottom and fads between Destin and Panama City. Use live cigar minnows and herring. Man, the guys have really got good reports tonight.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Superstars. All right, swimming up next, we'll be sharing our Coast to Conservation Minute tip and what to expect from the Northwest region right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Good job. Good
job.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line, Tires Plus, Total Car Care, the IGFA, Conservation Through Education. Get your hands wet. Florida Outdoor Experience, Lumber Rock, Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company.
Introducing Helmmaster, Yamaha's first fully integrated digital boat control system. With Helmmaster, you can start your outboards with a swipe of a paw and control them with a single lever. Outboard trim and steering friction adjust automatically as you accelerate and decelerate. Adjust engine speed with the touch of a button. The Helmmaster joystick provides the means to navigate and dock precisely with confidence and ease. Take control of your next vessel with Helmmaster at your command.
Casa Vieja Lodge, Guatemala. StarTron is a multifunctional fuel additive that uses enzyme technology. StarTron cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Engines powered by StarTron treated fuel start easily and run smoothly with fewer emissions and better fuel economy. StarTron restores octane to old substandard fuel. StarTron's enzyme formula enhances combustion for a more complete fuel burn. StarTron, it's not the engine, it's the fuel.
Wandering out into this great unknown. And when it's done, believe that I will yell it from that mountain.
Find summer, the Chevy Summer Drive. The Chevy Summer Drive. Get 0% financing for 72 months plus a total value of $4,000 on this 2014 Silverado All-Star Edition and no monthly payments for 90 days. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Bonefish Tarpon Trust is a science-based conservation organization dedicated to conserving global bonefish, tarpon, and permit fisheries and habitats through stewardship, research, education, and advocacy. Bonefish Tarpon Trust has accomplished a great deal right here in Florida. They are conducting the first of its kind juvenile tarpon habitat initiative, as one of the biggest threats to tarpon population is the loss of juvenile habitat. Bonefish Tarpon Trust and the Florida Keys Initiative is working to restore Keys bonefish populations and fish habitats through research and advocacy. And through Costa's Project Permit, Bonefish Tarpon Trust is working to understand permit movements and patterns. Armed with the knowledge from their research, Bonefish Tarpon Trust worked with the FWC to improve regulations for bonefish, tarpon, and permit, ensuring that more productive fisheries in Florida's future generation. Bonefish Tarpon Trust needs your support. For more information, become a member. Please visit btt.org.
Welcome back, guys. Good job, Rick. You look pretty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Captain Jeff Hageman has a few tips if you want to do some permit fishing in the Northeast region. Close us out, Hagster.
We got some great fishing. One of my favorite fish to go out and target. Usually our big fish show up, our 30 to 45 pound fish show up beginning of April, end of March, and then not far behind them, a few weeks later, we'll get those 15 to 20 pound fish. They're not usually far behind them, usually a few weeks right behind them, and they'll be in greater numbers. We'll get, anywhere from 50 to 200 fish in those size range. Like all the guys are talking about, crabs are the key. You can catch crabs, permit usually won't turn them down, but you can use a 16th or an 1/8 ounce chartreuse jig head with a tail hook shrimp. That'll work too. Big tip for permit fishing, a couple of them I've got for you. 25 to 35 or 40 pound test fluorocarbon leader. I usually use 6 to 10 feet of it. Use a lot of it if I'm using braid. 2/0, 4/0 circle hook with that crab. And also I'll get out there and I'll put my iPilot down, my Minn Kota, and I won't anchor up. I'll get on that, I'll hit the anchor feature. That way I don't have any lines in the water. I don't have anything to get tangled up in. And if you get a big fish on, you can follow them. Another tip with permit fishing is if you start off with a really light drag, a permit will make a long, straight steering run when you're fishing them offshore, and that'll get most of his energy out. And you can, if you got a big fish, you can get off the wreck and avoid getting broke off. If you got a lot of drag on him, he'll tend to go right down in that wreck. If you got any kind of high relief, and break you off right away, because you're not going to be able to stop him. So let him make that long steering run. It'll usually be a straight run away from the wreck, and you can either follow him or let him burn out some of his energy before you put the heat on him. And I've got a photo there of some nice West Coast fish caught with me.
That's a nice one, man. That's nice. 3 of them.
Yeah. Some good fishing. We got some great permit fishing, but we also got some good AJ fishing right now in the lower half of my region. Wrecks and reefs right now, and anything from 75 feet of water out to 130. Also on the springs. Spanish sardines, blue runners, anything that's going to be thread fins that are going to be moving really fast. Right now they're wanting to chase down base. They're being a little picky, so you might have to downsize your leader to catch them right now, but we got some good fish anywhere from 33 inches on up right now on the wrecks offshore. Moving inshore, the redfish bite has been really good. I was on a good school this morning of about 600 fish. We really got some good concentrations of redfish right now, and they're still in schools. Cut bait, live baits, both working good. Fish oyster bars, grass flats, all of them are holding bait. Like I said before, cut bait's been working well, live bait's been working well. First thing in the morning, though, sub walks in that mossback color and skitter walks on top. Bass Assassin, new penny jerk shads with a weighted 6/0 mustad hook is working really good too before it gets too hot. But once it gets hot, you want to switch to that dead bait. They're going to start getting a little lethargic. And talking about the heat, you can get in the water right now. We got great scalloping right now. Mario Costello of Tall Tales Charters out of Crystal River for some scalloping is going really good right now. Limits are going pretty easy. 2 hours hitting the water, you should have a limit out right now. Target thinner grass and anywhere from 3 feet or less. And most of the time you can walk around, you don't even have to put pins on, but remember to fly those dive flags. And I know you guys were talking about it a lot last week. We do have a good red tide report right now off of Hudson. The last report I got was from Brian DeParis. He said it's anywhere from 50 miles and north off of Hudson. So 50 miles out, there's a big red tide right now, and it's killing a lot of fish. So hopefully you get some some wind to blow that offshore of us so it doesn't come inshore and hurt our inshore fishery.
You know, Hag, I got a question for you, in reference to the red tide. A lot of people speculate that it's caused by, fertilizers from places that have a lot of communities by just afternoon rains and thunderstorms. But where this red tide is, it's so far offshore and in such a rural area. Does anybody have any reason why that is?
I'm not sure why it is. I don't know if it's a natural phenomenon or not. They haven't really proved where it's from, anything I've heard. But it's a dead zone out there. Everything from the top of the water all the way down to the bottom of the water column. Brian said he was seeing grouper, sharks, turtles, dolphins. Everything in its path right now is dying. So hopefully it'll clean up soon and get blown out of here. I don't know the reason for it, but I hope it doesn't come in and affect us too much.
All right. Well, thanks for keeping us informed with that in the Northwest Yeti region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Drummond Community Bank hotspots. Captain Jeff says inshore redfish bite throughout the region still remain strong on the top of the tide and use cut bait for best results with those redfish. And then offshore, mangrove snapper on high relief structure in 10 to 50 feet of water use tailhook shrimp on a hookup jig head, Bree.
That's so sad.
I know.
Oh, man. Okay.
It stinks. It really does,
yeah, it
literally.
Does. Oh my gosh. Like you. Okay, you don't want to miss out on what our species is next week. It's normally small, smelly, like you, and talks a lot. So while you ponder what it is, we're going to take a quick break right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Smelly Report.
Oh, you're being mean.
I know.
Wandering out into this great unknown. And when it's done, believe that I will yell it from that mountain.
Find summer, the Chevy Summer Drive. The Chevy Summer Drive. Get 0% financing for 72 months plus a total value of $4,000 on this 2014 Silverado All-Star Edition and no monthly payments for 90 days. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline four-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report right on your YouTube channel. And make sure to check out our website for fishing reports in your region. Visit www.ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. Next week on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, it's all about kids and fishing. Make sure to tune in to Sun Sports every Thursday, plus you can catch repeats of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report on Fridays and Saturdays. Check your local listings for times.
They are smelly.
They are, right?
We got
break.
105 kids coming in next week.
Woohoo!
That's how many is RSVP, not counting the Mahogany Group, which is going to be here as well. I'm really excited. I'm going to have to actually probably
It'll be like my living room on a Friday night.
Yeah.
We'll have a bunch of kids in here.
Hey, I noticed you got rid of the Superfly promotion.
I did.
Missed those glasses.
We're going to have to bring that back before the end of the season.
Sorry,
we
guys.
got to have that. We got to have the bug look back.
I wanted to surprise you. Did you like it?
The bug is back.
It did. It looked good.
It looked good?
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Superfly.
Kids fishing.
Well, get ready for kids fishing next week. It's going to be fun, apparently.
Giveaways, man. We're going to have kids running around. It's going to be crazy.
It's gonna be
Secretary
crazy.
of the Lotto is going to be here. Nick Wiley from FWC.
Hey, dance for us.
More importantly,
I try
thank
to
you
leave the
so much
kiddies
for
alone.
watching.
I know, that's so creepy. Oh, my God.